Hello everyone, welcome to SQL Start 2022. My name is Deepthi Goguri. I would like wherever you are joining from. Myself, I am Deepthi Goguri, and today I would like to present on learn how to use SQL Notebooks. So, if you are not familiar with SQL Notebooks, this is like an introductory session, going through how to what are SQL Notebooks and how to use them. So, I hope you learn a lot from this session. And before beginning, I would like to thank the SQL Start organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity to present here at SQL Start 2022. A little bit about me. I'm a database administrator with about 7+ years of experience as a DBA, working with databases and servers. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer and Microsoft certified solution expert. I did my master's in computer technology at Eastern Illinois University here in Chicago, United States. And I do blog for dbanuggets.com. That's my website. I usually blog about SQL Server related topics. Currently, I'm blogging about Azure fundamentals. If you'd like to learn about it, just check my website. And I'm also on Twitter. DBA is my ID for the Twitter, and session later and you couldn't able to ask me here, you can contact me at my email address that I provided over there, or also you can contact me on LinkedIn. You can search by my name, Deepthi Goguri, to connect with me on LinkedIn. So, did you ever face a situation anytime in your, if you are a DBA, right? We usually get the audit request, and recently, I used to get the audit request once in a while previously, but uh, a couple of months ago, it started to be overwhelming me because I get three requests, and like whenever we get the audit requesting, generally they do think that, hey Deepthi, can you please pull up these information from your servers? Like for example, who have sysadmin access, or like what users do you have in the database? Who have what permissions at the database and at the table level? So it used to be easy because I used to collect all the scripts in a location, and it used to be easy when they asked me to provide it couple of times in a year. But as it was like very overwhelming to me, they are when they asked me like to send the audit reports every now and then, like couple of times a week, it got overwhelmed. And as the audit request, the type of audit request has increased, the complexity has increased. Even though these are the simple tasks, I felt it complicated because it is so hard for me to remember where the scripts are in the drive locations and what script should I run before I run the another script. It was so overwhelmed. So doc, I wrote a documentation that will take me to the drive location where I can take the script from. But then when I change the locations, like when I copy and then the document is invalid, right? I need to update the document as well. It became so overwhelming, and uh, I saved all the scripts, all the documentation, but still I felt like this is not the way that I do it. And then once I get the request, not only that, right? Not only the tedious task of collecting the scripts and saving them on the drives and documenting, but also when they request the reports, audit reports, they not only require the results of the queries, but also they need me to take the screenshots of the query results along with the timestamp. So I need to open up my calendar on my computer and then I have to take a screenshot because they want the proof of like we are not modifying any results. So it became another level of complexity. Here I added a complexity because now have to take the screenshot and then create another document, like uh, telling that what script I have run. I have to share the query and then the screenshot. And it became so overwhelmed because most of the time I was spending on my audit request instead of working on my DBA tasks. So I was searching like is there any way that I can like automate it? Or is there any way that I can make this process so simple? And then while doing the research, I found that there are the SQL notebooks that I can use. Like they are the reusable SQL notebooks. And you do not have to worry about anything because there are like you can inside the SQL notebooks, you can actually cells like you can write the text, you can write the code, and then you can actually execute the code within the SQL notebook, which is cool, right? Because all I have to do is like prepare a SQL notebook, and when they request the audit, all I have to do is run this audit, run this SQL notebook, and then send those the result as a SQL notebook. And from their end, all they have to do is to download the Azure Data Studio so that they can open up the SQL notebooks. In this session, we are going to talk about what are Jupyter notebooks, SQL notebooks, and what is this markdown text, and how the SQL notebooks are beneficial, what are the usage scenarios, and what are a couple of limitations that we have with SQL notebooks. Azure Data Studio. So you need to download that, which is free tool. What is a SQL notebook? Like I said, the SQL notebook contains the code cells as well as the text cells. Like you can use by using the markdown text. Markdown text, if you are familiar with it already, it is easy. But to be very sincere, I'm not a fan of markdown text, the SQL notebook. We are going to see that in our demo. When you create the SQL notebook along with the text cells and the code cells are executable. So you can create multiple code cells with multiple uh, codes in it, like, and then you can execute it one cell at a time, or you can execute the entire SQL notebook in a single shot. It is very useful for the documentation. Personally, I used for auditing, and we started using for the documentation because once we create the documentation, we can share with the other developers and DBAs, like let's say like the standards that the developers have to follow, right? Those kind of documentation we can share, and we can also share with the other developers or DBAs, like if you guys are working on any performance tuning task or fixing any problems. There is no guarantee that you'll not face the same issue in the future again. So creating a document along with all the code you used within the SQL notebook, it will really help for the next person who is fixing the same problem again. We can also add images. This will actually create the nice visualizations, and you can not only see the results in the table format, but you can also see the results in the visualization as well. SQL notebooks can be also used. Like I said, you need both the notebooks. And there is something known as kernels in the SQL notebooks. Kernels are nothing but the language that you use, the code language that you use within the SQL notebook. It is like SQL notebook supports T-SQL, PostgreSQL, Python, Spark, and other languages. And there is this Control Shift P. You can use a search option by using the Control Shift P. As you use this option, you can search like what you want to create. Do you want to create a Jupyter notebook or a SQL notebook? Like I said, use. And you also have the IntelliSense enable. Like if you are using the T-SQL kernel, as you type select the schema of the table, you will be automatically see the tables. Again, the benefits are like visualization. You can not only select the data, but also you can also clean up the data, edit the data. You can transform the data by using the SQL notebooks. And you can also parameterize the notebook. Let's say you created a SQL notebook and you want to schedule the SQL notebook by using the SQL agent job. Yes, you have the ability to go ahead and create the SQL agent job, schedule, schedule the job to run the SQL notebook so that whenever you run the job, it will execute and produce the result as a SQL notebook, but with the results within the SQL. And to add this, to automate this at another level, the results of that SQL notebook, like the SQL, right? So instead of you copying the SQL notebook and sending it to the person via email, you can actually automate that. Like once this job runs, send the notebook with the results to that particular email. You can also do that. But we can say like there is a limitation. Parameterize the SQL notebook using the T-SQL. Do that by using the Python, but not for the SQL at this moment. Let's go and see our demo. So once you download the Azure Data Studio, if you see, I have so this is my Azure Data Studio app down. So I would like to open up a new Azure Data Studio session. So once I open that page, we can see, and there is this new option here. Once you drag that down, right, you can connect to the new connection, like you can connect to the server. You can also create a notebook. So I would like to go ahead and create new notebook. This opens up a notebook. So this is how the notebook looks like, very simple. So if you see here, we have the cells, you have code cell as well as the text cell. So once you open up the text cell, you can say this is a SQL start 2022 session. I can simply type it here, right? I can do the italic. I can underline it. So now I exited. Now how do I enter into the text cell again? I need to double click it again. You can also highlight and then use the other options here. So I would like to, let's say I would like to put this as a title of the. So let's say I have to drag the paragraph down. So heading one will make sure it is a big one, and you can do as per your needs. The heading two will be the second heading, or you can do it as a paragraph, just a paragraph. Not only that, this is like whatever you write is whatever you see is the option here. So right side your screen on the top, if you see here, the eyeball is like whatever you write is whatever you see. You just type it as a Word document, simple, you'll type and you'll see what you typed. But there is also the second option, which is the split view option. So once I clicked on that, right, did you see like here on the left side, you have something like star and then all of that, right? So this is the markdown text. You need to know a little bit of markdown text, like you use hashes and everything, like hash and then type, like for example, let me do this, like hash, this is a test. Let me see this. I'm not much familiar with with the markdown text, but I will show you how the markdown text look like. So you can use it as a split. as you write it in the markdown text on the left side your screen, right side your screen, you'll see the text in like just as you see in the what you write is what you see. And also you have the third option, which is completely the markdown view. Once you click on that, you will only see the markdown view. Clear with every option in the markdown text. So I would like to use in the this particular first view is like what you write is what you see. Already prepared to just show you like how it looks like each and every option. So this is how the SQL notebook look like. The similar way that we this is like the first option. What you like rich text view, you will only see the text, and if you add any images, you will see that just like the Word document, right? The second option is like split view. Now here is it the split view. The first hash and then say that's the actual title of the text. And when you use the two hashes, that is like a subtitle. It shows in the split view, and the third option, the markdown, is completely the markdown text. So let me go ahead here. This is a SQL notebook session, and if you see here, I mentioned something known as all-in-one. When I used to study in India, like my undergrad and undergrad in the school actually, so we have this all-in-one books where you have all the languages and all the subjects like social studies, other languages like the national languages, Hindi, and the state languages like Telugu, all in a single book, which is called as all-in-one book. And I placed this picture is because I found like SQL notebooks is like all-in-one books because you can create SQL notebooks on different kernels here, right? You can use SQL, you can use Spark, you can use Python, PowerShell, you can use different languages. Actually, you can mix and match these kernels in a single notebook. But the problem is like if you mix and match and write the SQL code and then Python code in between, you can individually run the code, right? Like you can individually run the cell. But if you wanted to run the entire SQL notebook in the same at the same time in a single shot, you have to click on run all. So when you use the multiple kernels in a SQL notebook and click on run all, the first kernel, if you put it in as a SQL and your first code is a T-SQL code, then it runs fine. But the next code, if you put it as a Python, you need to come and change that to Python and run the code. And if you want to run all in a single notebook, then the second code will fail because you need to change the kernels manually. It won't automatically change. That's one of the other limitations as well, right? We have seen that, and you can also connect to the SQL server. So to do that, click on attach to, change the connection, and then here you can mention the server. So my server is a local server, right? And then I would like to connect to the database. Let's say I would like to connect to master database and then click on connect. So right now my SQL notebook is connected to the SQL server, right? Like I said, you can edit, you can highlight, you can use caps lock, just like the way you type it in the Word document. Right now, we are connected to the SQL server and we are connected to the master database. So let me run this query. This is actually the code cell. So all I did was like go to cell and then click on code cell. Once I click on code cell, I typed select star from 6 databases. Now I can go ahead and run this cell by clicking on this button. So it executed the results as a table format, but you can also, if you want to copy these results and like share it, um, save it in a different formats, you can do that. The first option here, if you see, you can save it as a CSV file, You can do it as an Excel. You can save it as a JSON, XML, as well as you can see it as a chart. So once I click on that, you can see the same results in the visualization format, in the chart format. You can also collapse the cells. Let's say you have this query, right? Let's say you have a very big store procedure that you have written. You want to collapse those cells. Right side your screen, on the top of it, there is this first option, right? Collapse cells. If you collapse that, this is a very small query, so it is not collapsing like select chart from sys databases, but then it will actually uh, collapse the cells. It will not show the entire code. If you do not want to share the results with the other developers or DBAs, but you want to share only the query, but not with the results, but you have actually executed the results here, right? I went into the table format again. You can simply click on the same to see it in the chart format. Click on it again to see in the table format. So right now I want to clean up these results. All I wanted to do is share the query, but not the results. So go to the second option, right side your screen on the top, which says clear results. Once you click on that, it will clear the results. Now again, you can run this query to see the results, but then if you want to collapse, do it again. You can also use this particular notebook as parameterized values. So if you want to run it over and over again, but to change this, to change the server name or to change the database name, you can actually parameterize it. But as a limitation, we can't do that with the SQL kernel. The next option is to export the notebook as a SQL. So you can actually export the notebook, SQL notebook, into .SQL format by just clicking one button, right? After clicking that, you can see the entire notebook in the form of a .SQL format. And once you have the .SQL format, right, if you want to copy the .SQL format, and then you can also convert that as export that as a notebook here. On the top right side, you can see export as notebook. So once you do that, it will automatically export it again back to notebook. So let me close this one and let me show you my analysis. This is a wonderful example where you can see like how we can use the SQL notebooks. So for my demo purposes, I did a COVID-19 data analysis for the vaccination program in the workplace environment. So this is kind of analysis document where I would like to share with all the employees in a company to encourage them to take the vaccination. Not only just say, go and take the vaccination, but also with a proven analysis of why they actually have to consider taking the vaccination. So what I did was like I searched different websites like World Health Organization, and I grabbed the real time data, COVID data. And I copied that into the SQL Studio. Like I imported a COVID database out of that, and I used my analysis on the top of those tables, grabbing the information from those tables. So I mentioned all the source data here. If you see the citation, actually add the citations. You can link up to the different website within the SQL notebook. If you see here, you can add the GIFs. Like I mentioned, what is COVID-19, right? I highlighted and then I use GIF. I have mentioned what are the membranes of the COVID, right? The COVID bacteria. So I mentioned that in a picture. And then what I did was like I connected to the COVID database. Here, if you see, I connected to the local server. That is where my COVID database resided. So I connected to that database, COVID database. And then I grabbed the details of like top 10 countries with most COVID cases. So once I run this query, I saw, but not everybody might be the SQL person, right? It might be the different business users or anybody. So to to increase the impact, I have I have shown in the show in the chart format so that everybody can see the how much of a difference each of the country has, and they can see the analysis in the graphical view. So if you hover your mouse over here, the Africa has the most top cases, and then these are the other countries. If you hover your mouse, these are the total cases, top 10 countries. And next, I grabbed the information on the COVID vaccination based upon the continent. Here, the top continents, like the total number of vaccination I have executed and have seen in the chart format again. If you see, these are the top 10 countries with the total vaccinations available, right? The Asia has the total vaccinations, and the people who are partially vaccinated, these are the countries. If you hover your mouse, you can see the results. People fully vaccinated and the population. Now, if you see the population of the people with the vaccinations that are available, the vaccinations are more and the population is a little bit less when you see in the graphical format, right? And then, especially, I try to grab the information within the United States, like in the United States per state. So as I grab the results and and as I see in the chart format, I see all the results. And then when I hover my mouse over here, I see the total vaccination available in the United States. I also added that along with the other 50 states. I also wanted to see the entire vaccination amount as well. So these are the total vaccination, people vaccinated partially, and people fully vaccinated. Now I'm showing this in the graphical format because I want to make an impact of like encouraging the employees. So visualization is the important tool for the impact creation, right? So I thought like this is kind of cool to show them in the graphical format. And then post-vaccination COVID cases in the state of California. So as I grab the results, these are the people who are unvaccinated and end up in the hospital. And if you compare with the vaccinated cases who end up in the hospital, it's like way too less. And you can clearly see that in a visualization format, right? And then what are the vaccinated versus unvaccinated cases? Death of the people. So unvaccinated, hospitalized, vaccinated but hospitalized, unvaccinated death versus the vaccinated death in California. If you see the difference with the vaccinated, this itself says like the impact of the vaccination, how it can protect your life, right? And then how each of the manufacturer are doing, who is doing better than the others. Pfizer is the number one vaccination. And if you hover your mouse, Moderna and then AstraZeneca and the others. And then there is also this mm, there is also this kind of survey that went on within the United States, checking with people like whether they would like to wear a mask when they are in the 6 feet distance outside of the home. And there are these top 10 counties in the United States who said like, yes, we absolutely want to wear a mask to protect themselves as well as others. If you see these counties, you can see the county name as well as the state name. These are the top 10 counties. But there are also in the other side, there are also 10 counties who doesn't want to wear a mask at all. And these are the top counties. And I'm not, I did not create this myself. I did not add anything. I did not modify the data. This is what this is what the analysis has shown based upon the actual real-time data. I'd added the GIF again to show how to wear a mask in the form of GIF. But then, while I was doing my analysis, I found something which is really weird here. As I grabbed the top 20 locations of like what countries have like total cases, what are the total cases on the top top countries? So while I was doing that, I found something weird in my results. Graphical in the table format. You see the first two, it's like high income, upper middle income, and then the sixth row is like low middle income. I found this so weird because life is a life, right? It doesn't have to depend upon how much money you have or what is your financial status. So I do not know why they included this in the analysis, but then like from the World Health Organization, I have grabbed this data. So I found this so weird. Not include any financial status of the life. So I thought of removing that information. So what I did was like before deleting any of the information, I need to make sure I placed it in a different table. I grabbed all the data from these three categories. Now, why I'm showing this is because not only for the retrieval, not only for executing the store procedures, the selects and everything, but also you can we went ahead and deleted the COVID data. If you can see here, I have actually deleted, and then I made sure like data is actually deleted, right? You can also use the observations. If you see like base using a SQL notebook, it is so clear in the visualization view of how much of a difference can the vaccination make. If you have the vaccination, then you can actually save the life because these are the results. These are the health organization. But upon viewing the added a little quote over here, it doesn't cost you to protect your life, but it does cost your life if you're not protected. So this is like a proven analysis that I did for my demo, but then in the same, if you want to share with the business, the SQL, and you can use these visualization kind of things. If you're doing any presentations, you can show this. You can actually, so there is this example that I used while I was doing one of my presentation on Query Store. So what I did was like I collected a SQL notebooks together and I have placed it in a Jupyter notebook. So Jupyter notebook is nothing but the collection of SQL notebooks. The collection of notebooks, no matter what kernel you use, you can place them together and make it as a book so that you can share with the other friends or like developers, DBAs, so that they can download and they can actually use it as a documentation. So here, if you see the left side of your screen, all I did was I went to the third option here, right? The notebooks. So here, if you see, let me, this one here. If you see here, this is my first Jupyter notebook. All I did was like I created the SQL notebook here, and this is on Query Store. So I have created it as a contents. So I was presenting this. And first, the table of contents, I want to say, like, what is Query Store? It is in another SQL notebook, benefits of Query Store, and then my demo starts. How to force and unforce the how to force and unforce the plans. So here I can uh, really show in my demo directly within the SQL notebooks. I can directly run the queries and I can show them. And then database upgrade scenario. I have placed all these demos within the SQL notebooks. I mean, what I did was like I have directly copied my .sql file from the management studio and I have pasted over here. That's why it is showing as a full in a single file. But then you can actually convert that into a SQL notebook directly. and as well as the .SQL, like I showed you before. And this is how like I have seen, but also there are like, let me close this one. Let me close all of these that I opened. So as I told you, like I have used these SQL notebooks in the audit format for the audit purposes, right? So when I receive the audits, these kind of requests I do receive. I just put this together just to show you like how my audit notebook looks like. So I have written the text format and then I mentioned like what are the server role membership. So they have requested me to share the details of the server role membership. So I have created this document, right? What are the server roles and then the what are the orphan user list, right? This is the query and the database level information, like what are the database names and what compatibility levels they are and what are the recovery model, right? And then login information, login server role permission information, like what are the logins and what kind of roles, server roles they have. So for example, I have this audit request, that right? So I have created this. Whenever they need it, whenever they request, all I have to do is like change the connection to the server that they are requesting, and then run this particular SQL notebook, and then share this notebook with the user who requested. But then I can also actually automate this process. So there is this session by Tayo Bali who have provided a wonderful session um, for the Microsoft developers channel in YouTube. Um, uh, so it's a 14-minute video where he clearly goes step by step of how to actually use the SQL notebooks and how you can actually create a agent job attaching the SQL notebook so that you can run it automated. But then I'm not showing each and every step of how to create it because there is already a video about it, right? I will provide you a link of where to go and look into. But then let me show you how the results look like, right? Once we execute the SQL notebook using the agent job. So all I did was like go to the first option on left side your screen to the connections, right? So these are my server connections here. So I would like to connect um, to this server. This is a local server and AdventureWorks database, and this is a local and master database. Let's go to this database, right? And then right click on it and click on manage. Once you click on manage, it is grabbing the information of the tables within the master database because we are connecting to the master database, right? So let's go a little bit backward. So this is a local database, right? This is a local server and we are connecting to the master database. But if you go a little bit backward, left side your screen here, I clicked on local here so that I went on the server level. So here you see all the databases that are available in my server and like backup status. And if you see here, I see the databases as well as under the administration, you see the SQL agent. So this is kind of extension where Tayo Bali has actually talked about like how to download this extension and everything. So you can go ahead and look into that video that I'm providing like in the references. So once you click on SQL agent here, I have actually created and executed these SQL notebooks as an agent job. So let's say I wanted to see the history of this SQL notebook and the results of it. So I'll click on it, right? These are the timings where they actually got executed, and this is a history of it, right? But then I wanted to see the results of it. So I would like to go to the notebooks here because it will be saved under the notebooks tab, the results, right? And we are looking into notebook for agent job. So I'm clicking on it to see all the results here. So these are the results in the format of SQL notebooks. So if I open the latest one of the latest execution results, if I double click it, all I did was like I executed this notebook with this simple query. I did not, I just added that notebook into the SQL agent job in the form of PowerShell to go ahead and execute this particular notebook. And it has executed along with results, and here it have provided as the results here. So the results will always be in the notebook. So the results of the SQL notebooks are here. So I can go ahead and I can actually save this one, go to file and then save as. Once I click on save as, right, I can go ahead and, um, I can go ahead and save it on my desktop, right? So once I save it on my desktop, if you see, I'm going on to my desktop. Um, I have so many tabs here. So it should be saved somewhere here. Okay, let me see here on my desktop here. And if you see the last modified, um, it should be saved somewhere here. See, it has actually saved like this. Let me see. It should be saved somewhere here on the desktop. My system is slow. So once it's saved, right, you can actually um, directly attach this, or you can actually automate that within the SQL agent notebook. You can do that. And also one more thing, it is taking time. So you can directly open that notebook into the SQL notebook. Let's say it has, I think this one is the one. Yeah, this one is the one that I executed. So once I double click on it, right, I can see that notebook again. You can directly attach that notebook, attach this notebook into an email. And now I will show you something else. I have a GitHub repo, right? This is my GitHub page. This is my GitHub page. So let's say I would like to export that notebook that we have actually executed within the SQL agent job. We have that result, right? So how about I import that notebook into my GitHub? So all I did was go to the repositories and I have created a new repository, right? Let's say SQL Start 2022 is my name of the repository. And all I did was like create the repository. So once the repository is created, you can go ahead and click on uploading an existing file, right? Choose your files and remember we have actually like, got the result, this particular notebook result. So I'm clicking on that. I'm importing that into the GitHub, and then I'm committing the changes. So it is processing my file. So right now my notebook is in here. So I upload it into GitHub. So the user, like, because this is a public GitHub repo, I have made it public, but then you can actually make it as a private within your organization, and you can upload it here where they can go ahead and click on this code over here and then simply download it as a zip file. So once they download it, right, open that. Once you open that, this is the repository, right? So once I open that, I downloaded it, right? So if you have Azure Data Studio on your system or your user open that app along with the results. So that's how you can actually share the results. You can actually review the code of the other developers or the DBAs while you are trying to fix a problem. You can review the code, you can do the code review, make the changes, save the notebook, and then share it with them. So you can do that very easily, and you can use these SQL notebooks over and over again instead of like working on those tedious tasks of remembering where you are putting the files and then creating the steps and having the links to the files where you have actually saved the dots. So it was very useful for, and we started using it in for the documentation purposes. We created the Azure, like we created the Jupyter notebooks and created the collection of the SQL notebooks, documenting like anything, like if there is another employee that is joining the company, let's say the DBA, Jupyter notebooks, multiple Jupyter notebooks for every single task that we do, so that the who joined, all we do is like provide these Jupyter notebooks to him so that he can download these Jupyter notebooks and then go through all the documentation along with the code, like how to fix certain specific um, issues. If we are on call, if we are in the middle of the night and at 2 a.m. we get a pager to fix an issue, and if the previous DB has already fixed an issue, the similar kind, call him, right? Because I have this SQL notebook which he have actually created. All I have to do is go ahead and run that SQL notebook. So that's how I actually use the SQL notebooks. Let me show the so the first one, if you see here, managing SQL Server agent jobs with notebook jobs in Azure Data Studio, released by Data Exposed from Microsoft, MVP edition by Tayo Bali. Please watch this video. It's a 14-minute video, but it is very beneficial. Like if you want to actually automate and produce the results. And these are the other references that I followed from Microsoft Docs. And if you want to really go in depth about like how to use SQL notebooks on other kernels, like how to use with the PowerShell, it's the similar way, but you write the PowerShell in it. But how to parameterize and how to actually take this to another level. If you want to go in depth of with the SQL notebooks, go ahead and watch the session down below, which was presented by Julie from Microsoft. That's a wonderful video. Like it's like about 1.5 hours or something, but she have actually shown different kernels, not only the SQL but also the Python, and how you can actually run the notebooks in certain process, like automated process in the data as a data flow. So you can also watch that. And I think I'm done. I would like to say a big, huge thank you for this um, conference for us to make sure everybody learns it for free. So if you would like to contact me, again, handle and that's where my website is and my email address. And I hope to meet you on LinkedIn. So much once again for attending my session, and I hope this was useful. I will stop presenting.